Fox Business host Lou Dobbs knows who to blame for Mexico's woes. The devil.
Well, Pope Francis is in southern Mexico today, an early stop on his controversial trip to the hemisphere and to the country. The Pontiff yesterday held a huge outdoor mass in a crime-ridden Mexico City suburb where the Pope urged residents to, quote, shun the devil. The devil is in evidence abundantly in that part of Mexico. But the Pope had no practical advice for the millions of people who are caught up in the drug cartel violence, the Mexican government corruption, the tragedy that now grips Mexico.
Blame the devil. It's all the devil's work. Seriously? Oh, look, there's no doubt what's going on in Mexico is pretty terrible. But it's not the devil that's doing it. And I'll point out why. But first, I got to point out how this is just indicative of the ignorance of people on Fox News hosts. The Pope had absolutely no practical advice for the millions of people caught up in cartel violence. Of course he didn't. What do you expect? He's the Pope, not a politician. He can't figure this out. No, what he's there to do is he's there to offer aid and comfort and hope to people who need it. That's kind of what the Pope's job is. It's not just to say, hey, gay people are wrong and stop, using condoms. That's not his job. I mean, that's part of it, I guess. Certainly that was a big part of Ratzinger's, papacy. But when it comes to Pope Francis, he's actually like, no, I'm going to go to Mexico. I'm going to help some people. Right? I'm going to go there. I'm going to visit the crime-ridden areas of Mexico and actually offer some assistance spiritually. Now, I don't believe in all that stuff. I think it's hokey, but you know what? Some people are comforted by that, and I'm not going to begrudge them that. So, anyway, as I said, criticizing the Pope for visiting Mexico makes no sense. But what gets me more than just that, right, is the ignorance of the role that we in America played in this problem, right? Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, certainly you can't blame everything on America, right? Not the corruption. But one thing you can blame is the drug war that we started. That drug war has actually been a disaster for Mexico, for border towns. And it's led to a lot of violence and a lot of power being amassed by the drug cartels. What else has been a disaster for Mexico that we had a hand in is corn subsidies. We subsidize the living shit out of corn. And that has had a huge effect on Mexico's poor, their farming community. The farmers can no longer make money on corn, so they give up their fields. They essentially don't have enough to sustain their lives and to contribute to the economy, so they leave their land and they head, well, guess where they head? They head to America. And of course, when they come to America, most likely it's illegal, and they end up getting exploited by our corporations that look for cheap labor. And they end up paying taxes, of course, but not getting anything for them in return. Undocumented immigrants pay lots of taxes, but they never see a dime back. And look, Fox News will never tell you this because they're not interested in facts, but undocumented immigrants, they can't get any assistance. They can't get help. They don't get free Obama cars. Yes, I've heard of that. Some people actually think, oh, they get free food, free shelter, housing, and free cars. That is the biggest load of bullshit I think I've ever heard. No, they don't get free cars, you dumbass. Look at the facts. There are people, right? There are people that say that, well, they can sign up for food stamps. But you look anywhere on a food stamp form, right? Any form for public assistance has, are you an undocumented immigrant? Are you an illegal alien? If you're an illegal alien, you can't actually get these programs. You do not qualify. You have to be a citizen. In fact, people who are legal immigrants, they can't get assistance for 10 years. So with that narrative, enough of it. It's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. Okay. Now, on to something else, right? So instead of actually blaming people and not doing anything about what's going on in Mexico, we could actually do a couple of things. And it would be beneficial not just for Mexico, but it would be beneficial massively for us. And that would be to end the drug war. I mean, you deprive the cartels of money and power, well, they're not going to be as you're going to drive as powerful. They're not going to be as dangerous. You're going to end up driving them out of business. They're going to go to something else. Most of what they do is marijuana. But there are other drugs involved too. If we at least decriminalize and end the drug war, that's going to take a lot of power away from the cartels. And you won't have as much violence on that border region. And it's not going to be as bad. Now, if we were to actually wise up and do that, that would solve a lot of their problems, and it would actually solve a lot of our problems as well. For example, with our incarceration. But that's what we should do. But instead, Lou Dobbs says, let's just blame the devil, because, real problems are hard. Real problems are difficult. And, they're difficult to solve, and the solutions are, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about the devil. It's ridiculous. And of course, I shouldn't be surprised because, after all, I'm watching Fox News. But really, I think it's kind of an excuse to trash the Pope. I mean, it's kind of weird because you've seen this, conservatives, on a lot of different conservatives, Fox News, they've actually trashed the Pope. You never see this during Ratzinger, during Pope Benedict's papacy, but that's right, because Benedict was an asshole, and he was also a right-winger, so that makes sense that they wouldn't ever challenge him. But when we get a pope that's somewhat liberal, at least on economic issues, well, suddenly, now we're going to trash the Pope. Now we're going to trash him, of course.